So, picture this. The world is basically crawling with demons. And ruling this chaotic party, an SSS-ranked Demon King named Belilfur. This guy was packing 5 different kinds of elemental heat. The whole world was juiced up on magic, which naturally meant a ton of demon lairs and devils started popping up. But on the bright side, magic also created awakeners humans, who were basically gifted with their own set of superpowers. And at the absolute top of the food chain was the baddest crew around. A squad known as God's Legion. Their leader, Bayi, introduced himself as the captain. He was hitting his 10th year of leading the team. And this was already their 100th high-level demon lair they'd had to clean out. Bayi gave the order to kick things off. One by one, the superstars of God's Legion made their grand entrance. First up was Balay. She's the squad's deadly assassin. A lightning-fast and totally stunning L-rank Electric Assassin. And L-rank, that's the highest, most insane difficulty level you can get. Following her was Hang Xiaolin, the team's resident magic user. He might be a bit on the shorter side, but he's a ridiculously talented L-rank cloud mage. Then came Lucian, the squad's support system. He's an L-rank Galaxy Conductor, the crucial force, making sure they all stay in one piece. Bayi reminded himself that even though L-rank was a nightmare, getting this mission done meant they'd finally get a little vacation. Finally, the captain himself stepped into the spotlight. Bayi, the L-rank Nuclear Holy Swordsman, the warrior who led them all. Together, the 4 of them unleashed their powers. Striking as one epic force, their combined power completely steamrolled the SSS-ranked Demon King Belilfur. Elimination complete. But as the fight ended, Hang Xiaolin groaned. He was totally bummed that it was over so quickly. Muttering about finding a few more demon lairs to mess around with later, Balay pointed out that this was a huge mission where their entire squad was specially called in. Hang shot a look at Bayi. He wondered out loud if the fight had been a little times 2 times easy. Bayi remembered the intel warning them that this Demon King had 5 elements and some hidden tricks. All of a sudden, Balay wrapped her arms around Bayi from behind in a playful hug. She got all flirty, teasing him about their break. So, she purred, "Are you treating everyone to a big dinner? Or maybe just a private one for me?" Totally embarrassed, Bayi gently grabbed her cheeks and pushed her away, clearing his throat and insisting, "The treat is for everyone. Later, at their usual hangout in the Holy See." Balay was complaining that her sneak attack on him had failed once again. Frustrated with her failed attempt, Hang started teasing Bayi, telling him he just didn't have a clue when it came to women. Bayi quickly changed the subject, asking where the last member of their group was. Lucian answered that he'd claimed he was cleaning up the aftermath, even though he hadn't lifted a finger during the actual fight. Balay added, "He's always the slowest one," and Hang accused him of being the one who slacked off the most. Just then, speak of the devil, the missing member finally arrived. It was the guy in the skeleton mask. He snapped his fingers and calmly announced, "Activating Purification Mission." In the blink of an eye, he blasted Hang with his power, sending him crashing hard to the ground. The other 3 screamed Hang's name in shock, only to see he was already gone. The skeleton-masked man stood there, completely unfazed. He declared, "This is the true mission I was given by God." With another gesture, he unleashed his power once more. The remaining 3 found themselves completely frozen, unable to move. Bayi struggled, demanding, "Why can't I move?" The skeleton mask guy revealed that a special paralyzing powder had been mixed into their breakfast every day for the past month, crafted with the express purpose of royally ticking off the strongest of the bunch. The skeleton-masked guy unleashed a totally over-the-top technique, God's super secret. Forbidden flower tendrils, like something out of a weird dream. Thorny vines erupted from the floor, wrapping Bayi, Balay, and Lucian in the most aggressive and unwanted group hug of all time. His voice was unbelievably chill as he reminded them, "See, this is what happens when you skip the prep work. Guys." Bayi squirmed in the leafy bindings. His voice filled with pure disbelief as he questioned the skeleton-masked guy's grip on reality. "Have you completely lost your mind?" he yelled, while Balay, her voice trembling, demanded, "Okay. What is the big idea with this killer salad?" Without even a pause, the masked party pooper activated another feature, one that hit the snooze button on his enemies and magically stripped away all their defenses. He then announced, with all the drama of a stage actor, "This is all according to the big guy's plan." This so-called L-rank Purification Mission had just one goal: to give them all a very permanent timeout. The forbidden tendrils gave Balay and Lucian one last, uncomfortably tight squeeze. They were squeezed so hard they just sort of logged off. Their totally playing possum forms dangled in the vines as Bayi's eyes widened in horror. That was the last straw. A furious rage took over Bayi as he let out a defiant shout that echoed dramatically. He demanded to know why they were getting kicked from the game. Yelling, "God's Legion has a perfect 5-star rating. We've never broken the rules." He kept yelling, "Which, God even signed off on this? And by what right are you deleting us?" His fury exploded as he screamed, "How is this judgment even remotely fair?" The skeleton-masked guy just watched him with the cold, smug amusement of a cat who's just knocked a glass off the counter. He called Bayi old captain, and basically mocked him for being so naive. Then, with chilling precision, he poked Bayi in the chest, and his hand went right through. With his arm sticking out the other side, he said casually, "The big boss wants a word with you," and then asked, "Is there really any need for a reason? Ketchup, I mean." Blood dribbled from Bayi's mouth as his energy bar hit 0. He gasped, clinging to his last few hit points. "What about all our years together?" he choked out. "We fought side by side for over a decade. Weren't we comrades? Weren't we practically family after everything we went through?" The skeleton-masked guy just sneered, dismissing all that friendship stuff as completely meaningless. He tried to explain how B was still clueless as to why she'd do him so dirty, a mystery that had been brewing since the day they first met. The big guy upstairs had already set up this ridiculously complicated game of chess. And surprise, Bayi and the others were always just the pawns. "You were pieces meant to be sacrificed," he said, to gain their trust. He'd been method acting as their best pal for years, and frankly, he was getting pretty sick of the role. With one final, almost bored-looking motion, he lifted a finger, channeled his power, and pew shot a little energy blast right into Bayi's forehead. Bayi collapsed to the ground, totally lifeless. The bodies of all 4 members of God's Legion were now scattered about like discarded action figures. Their mission ended not with a victory parade, but with a shocking betrayal. The skeleton-masked guy stood over them and calmly filed his after-action report. On May 22nd, 2125, all members are confirmed to be taking a dirt nap. The L-rank Purification Mission is complete. With a deep sigh of relief, he muttered, "Finally, I can get a little vacation time." Then everything went black, and a new voice broke the silence, offering to make a deal. The scene snapped to Bayi again, who was now wrapped up in some seriously heavy-duty chains. He was completely dazed, with no idea where he was or how he got there. Then, from the shadows, Bayi emerged, the SSS-ranked Demon King himself, who greeted him with an unnervingly smooth, "Well, hello there, handsome." Bayi's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. "Bayi, you're alive." The Demon King just scoffed at the very idea. "Please, darling, a SSS-ranked Demon King can't be taken out that easily. Welcome to my soul space, this whole gloomy country thing. Yeah, that's basically my life force on display. Moody, isn't it, Bayi? Not one for small talk. Got right to the point." He said he could practically smell the grade A, top-shelf rage simmering inside Bayi. A rage that was, like, totally twinning with his own. And because they were such anger buddies, he wanted to make a little proposition. He flashed his super-secret skill, life reversion. a nifty little power that could zip Bayi way back in time, giving him the ultimate do-over to fix all his screw-ups and totally rewrite his destiny. Belsa dramatically placed a hand on Bayi's shoulder, whispering that this was his one-way ticket to changing absolutely everything. Suddenly, Bayi's head was like a highlight reel of his old crew, their goofy smiles, their obnoxious laughter, and then a hard cut to those bony jerks mercilessly wrecking the party. The fury inside him went from 0 to 100, and his need for payback became seriously non-negotiable. He took the deal, theatrically vowing to hunt down that backstabber. Belsa just smirked. Like, yeah, I knew you'd say that. He called Bayi's predictable answer adequate, and promised to give him one last little boost to get started, calling it a little welcome back present. And then, right out of his own chest, Belsa casually ripped out his own freaking heart and held it out to Bayi like a party favor. Bayi just stared at the thing, his voice barely a whisper as he asked what the actual catch was. Like, why this deal? Why him? And seriously, what's the price tag on a time-traveling heart gift? Belsa just flashed that smug smirk again, made some weird, cryptic gesture, and uttered a single word. And just like that, the world did a total fade to black. Bayi's consciousness came crashing back to the sound of a screechy voice telling him to get up and stop being a lazy bum. Everything looked completely different. The year was 21,005. He was in the Sanghi Nation subsidiary, at the ridiculously named Nation of Winter School, Junior High Division. Bayi shot bolt upright, his mind doing 90 as the insane truth hit him. It actually worked. He was back. Back before he'd awakened his powers. Back to peak adolescent awkwardness. This was it, his second chance to fix the future and get back everything he'd lost. Just then, Teacher Huang's voice boomed across the room, ripping into him for his nap. I mean, it's one thing to goof off during my incredibly fascinating lecture, but to be snoozing on the afternoon of the most important day of your young lives. Unacceptable. Bayi was sentenced to the walk of shame stand in the back of the class. He tried to argue, but it was like talking to a wall. So, he trudged to the back, his eyes scanning the faces of his classmates, his very young classmates. His brain was still buffering. He was really, truly back in junior high. The horror, the reality of it all slammed into him like a ton of bricks. He'd been reborn. A little party trick only possible thanks to that heart-offering weirdo, Belsa. The whole thing felt like a fever dream. But seeing these kids' faces he hadn't laid eyes on in almost 20 years made it terrifyingly real. It was both totally awesome and completely overwhelming. He took his spot at the back and decided to just shut up and observe as Teacher Huang droned on. The teacher clapped his hands for attention, gave a shout-out to some kid named Ye, and then kept going. He launched into his favorite lecture, The Fundamentals of Their World, where a whopping 5 types of elemental powers existed: lightning, fire, cloud, core, and starry. Apparently, you only got one per customer. And then, Teacher Huang puffed out his chest and revealed that he, of course, had the super-duper rare cloud element. He then explained how these powers meshed with your body, sorting everyone into one of 3 neat little categories: combat, utility, and special. And from this amazing system, a gazillion different jobs were born. Yay! Careers. He was going on about the school's star-studded guild. Basically the campus A-listers, a star mage, a cloud warrior, some kind of core bard, and a lightning assassin. He reminded everyone that being chosen from hundreds of millions of hopefuls made them all pretty much superstars already. They'd been showered with praise since they were kids. But now, at the peak of their awkward teenage years, their biggest challenge was just around the corner. Today was basically the final exam for the rest of their lives. Teacher Hong broke it down, explaining there were nearly 100 known professions, all sorted by quality dust: Firefly, Abyss, and Skylo. From totally lame to legendary, each student would get exactly one shot, one opportunity to awaken their hidden talent. That very afternoon, the job title they were assigned would pretty much lock in their future social standing. Once class was dismissed, Bayi stepped out and took a stroll through the school grounds. A serious case of nostalgia hit him as he looked around at the familiar scenery. This was where his whole wild ride had started. This was the exact spot where he first had his own magical awakening. As he walked, a sudden commotion caught his eye. A kid with glasses tripped and face-planted right in front of him. Bayi recognized him in a heartbeat. The nerdy kid hadn't changed a bit. A moment later, another student sauntered over, clearly the one who'd shoved the bespectacled boy, and was now lording over him with maximum arrogance. He started calling the poor guy trash, mocking him for needing a little help from the universe to awaken his powers. He sneered, bragging that even after their big awakening ceremony, they'd still be nothing more than dirt on his shoes. He couldn't stop talking about his own super rare red quality profession, declaring that next to a big shot like him, they were all just permanent freshmen. Hong Kang then dramatically planted his foot on the glasses-wearing kid's hand, grinding it into the pavement for extra effect. His two cronies stood by, watching him flex his power. It turned out Hong Kang was an E-class star assassin, and his background was a total mystery. Bayi's thoughts drifted to the scene. Yep, that was the same school bully from his past life, a total troublemaker who seemed genetically engineered to start drama with his classmates. Hong Kang pressed his foot down harder before shamelessly snatching the money bag from the kid on the ground. Suddenly, Teacher Huang appeared and marched right up to him, warning him that this was a school, not a place for a stick-up. She reminded him he was picking on a little kid. Hong just played dumb, acting all innocent. He claimed the boy bumped into them and owed his friends a cup of milk tea as an apology. Then, he lowered his voice and tried to whisper a threat to Teacher Huang, telling her to stay out of it. He added that if she wasn't so good-looking, she would have been fired a long time ago. Teacher Huang completely blew off his comment and went to check on the injured boy, asking him if he was okay. Hong Kang motioned to his buddies and decided to make a graceful exit, announcing they'd show the teacher some respect and let it slide this time. As he walked off, Hong's eyes met Bayi's, annoyed. He shoved Bayi, telling him to get out of the way. He told them to watch out, promising to come back later just to laugh at them. Then he and his goons were gone. The glasses-wearing kid apologized to Teacher Huang, blaming himself for being so clumsy. Teacher Huang immediately reassured him, telling him he did absolutely nothing wrong. Bayi watched the whole thing unfold silently. He remembered that Teacher Huang always had a razor-sharp tongue, but a heart made of pure marshmallow. I was daydreaming about the one person who actually helped me out in my last life when some kid skidded over, announcing it was our class's turn for the main event, the Awakening Chamber. Teacher Huang gave us her usual speech, reminding everyone to stay calm so we don't, accidentally blow something up. And so, like a flock of nervous ducklings, the students shuffled toward the ominously humming Awakening Chamber. My mind started wandering as I watched the whole production. In this world, awakening happens in two ways. First, you've got your natural superstars, like Hong Kong. That's usually for the jocks with killer physiques and crazy talent who just spontaneously get powers when they get super emotional. The second way, for us mere mortals, is through the good old Awakening Spatial Chamber. It's a shiny toy cooked up by a zillion scientists that basically puts your emotions and adrenaline into a blender on high. The whole point is to shake loose any hidden potential. The only catch is, you get exactly one shot at this, and the job you get is a total cosmic lottery. The chamber glowed, and another student stumbled out, gasping for air. He'd snagged a blue-tier profession, a Firefly-grade class. Teacher Huang gave him a proud nod and sent him off to recover. I couldn't help but feel the pressure. This whole awakening thing is treated as the single biggest moment of your life. It's the one roll of the dice that decides your entire destiny. And guess who was next? Teacher Huang called my name. She gave me the look, warning me to stay focused and not pull any of my usual classroom stunts. Concentrate. Bayi, she said, almost softly. You got it. I shot back, trying to sound cool as I stepped inside. The door sealed, and my mind drifted to the last time I did this. In my previous life, I'd awakened as a class core warrior, a bottom-of-the-barrel, dust-grade profession. Naturally, I became everyone's favorite punching bag. It wasn't until I finally grinded my way to S-class that I unlocked the rarest kind of power. I had a feeling that core element was still in me. So, what was the prize behind door number 1? This time, suddenly, alarms started screaming inside the chamber. The system was having a full-blown panic attack. Detection failed. Apparently, it found 5 elements inside me. Oops. A crazy surge of heat ripped through my body, completely frying my senses. One last system message blinked into view. The infinite awakening system had been activated. A slick new window popped up right in front of me. It explained that because my body was an all-you-can-eat buffet of 5 elemental types, I could pick any class from any element as my starter. It also let me know that once I collected enough energy for a certain element, I'd be able to either get a new random class for that element or just upgrade one I already had. The light bulb went on. This meant I wasn't just choosing my starter class. I could keep collecting new ones later. I could get Dust tier, Firefly tier, Abyss tier, and maybe even the legendary Sky tier classes. The system basically said, "Yep, you got it, buddy." It did warn me that only the first pick was free. After that, it was all up to chance. And in that exact moment, I remembered what Bellic had said. How he'd promised to give me another hand. I finally understood. This insane, rule-breaking power of infinite awakening. This was his gift. The system then warned me that after I chose my first class, all my elemental bars would be wiped clean, telling me to choose carefully. Outside, I could hear the other students getting impatient. They were probably all wondering why I was taking so long. Their whispers stopped the moment I stepped out. Teacher Huang bounced over, practically vibrating with excitement, asking what amazing class he'd awakened. Bayi just smirked and revealed he'd become a nuclear warrior. You know, the bottom of the barrel, green quality kind. You could practically see the hope drain from Huang's face. But she kept a chipper tone. She gave him the whole pep talk, reminding him that even green quality nobodies have become legends, and urging him not to give up. She insisted the world wouldn't dare let him down. Bayi, completely over the pity party, just waved it off. Huang, sensing his frustration, admitted it must be a bummer and told him to get some rest, since awakening totally zaps your energy. And right on cue, Huang burst out laughing from across the room. He was taking aim at both Bayi and Huang, sneering at the teacher's optimism and calling it a load of hollow, toxic positivity. He then accused her of being completely detached from reality. Huang and Bayi shot him a synchronized death glare, but he just kept on going. He announced that being Dust tier quality put Bayi at the absolute bottom, declaring the world only picks winners, while the weak are just there for public humiliation. Bayi was silently thinking, what kind of messed up god designed this system, as Huang snapped, demanding to know why Huang was even there. He just ignored her completely, explaining that from now on, all the Dust tier folks would be unofficially banished to the back row, not by any actual rule. He clarified, but because that's just how the social food chain works. People without power, connections, or a future are always the first to be forgotten, while the strong get even more resources to become even stronger. He openly mocked the very idea that hard work could change your fate, calling the thought of a Dust tier ever being a genius pure fantasy. He compared it to your family at birth, arguing that a person's entire future was already locked in. He then said the Awakener school was just a smaller, more concentrated version of that harsh reality. With that, Hong turned his charming personality toward Teacher Huang. He stepped right into her personal space with a sneer, reminding her that, as a Firefly tier, she was basically just a freeloader at the school. As for the Dust tier people, he said they should just go home and stop wasting the government's money. Bayi's very short fuse finally ran out. Having had more than enough of Hong's monologue, Bayi grabbed the juice cup in his hand and squeezed. He gave Hong a surprise, sticky juice shower. Absolutely enraged, Hong let out a furious roar as his smug composure completely shattered. Bayi, however, looked completely calm, like he was just bored and had no interest in hearing any more of the guy's whining. Hong's face twisted into a nasty grin, and his voice went ice cold as he started spitting curses. Fueled by pure rage, he launched himself at Bayi. His fist was aimed like a rocket. He unleashed his attack Starforging Thrust, a standard assassin move that packed a serious wallop. Bayi, totally unfazed, met the attack with his blade. His sword moved with a smooth, practiced precision that was almost graceful. He executed a slick technique known as Gu. The impact sent Hong flying backward spectacularly, spitting blood as he crashed to the ground. Shock filled his eyes as his brain seemed to short-circuit. Completely unable to process what in the world had just happened, the students standing around were frozen like statues, with the exact same question bouncing around in their heads. Not a single one of them could figure out how Bayi had blocked and countered that attack so effortlessly. Whispers of disbelief rippled through the crowd as they tried to make sense of the scene. Bayi, without saying a single word, had just laid out the truth for everyone to see. He had chosen his own class, the Nuclear Warrior, which came with a basic light sword. Turns out, he'd gotten pretty darn good at using it. Hong, despite his total humiliation, sputtered into a mocking laugh, claiming Bayi had just gotten incredibly lucky. He made sure to announce, for the cheap seats, that he was a rare abyss tier, basically royalty compared to a nobody like Bayi. But Teacher Van, oh, she saw something else entirely. Her gut was screaming that what just went down was definitely not a lucky shot. Bayi had just pulled off the warrior's legendary top secret move Ju. That's the move that lets a warrior block a full power hit at the last possible second and send the pain right back to sender, all within 0.09 seconds. It's faster than any human should be able to react. And if you time it perfectly, it completely cancels out 100% of the damage. Poof. Gone. And get this, if you hit it again in that tiny 0.09 second window, you can bounce the entire attack right back in their face. It was a technique so ridiculously hard that her own mentor couldn't nail it after 10 years of non-stop practice. And yet, this kid Bayi, who literally got his powers today and has zero fight experience, just performed it like he was born to. Meanwhile, Hong, practically steaming from the ears, drew his sword for round 2. He was so mad. He started screaming about how he'd make Bayi grovel in front of everybody. Bayi, on the other hand, just stood there looking completely unfazed, maybe even a little bored, picking the so-called weakest class. Yeah, that was all part of his master plan. A plan that was his little secret. He already knew that judging someone by their stats at birth was a rookie mistake, a lesson Hong wouldn't learn for a long time. Then, as if on cue, the system window popped up again, giving everyone a play-by-play of that insane block. It explained that a weapon block can negate over 50% of damage, if you've got good timing, but a times-perfect times block, timed with god-tier precision, could erase all the damage, and if you trigger it again within 0.09 seconds, it could potentially reflect every last bit of physical damage back. With that, Bayi and Hong faced off again. It was on. A brilliant yellow aura flared to life around Bayi, while Hong was shrouded in the angriest-looking deep purple you've ever seen. The crowd of students started whispering, like, "Oh my God. Are they actually going to fight right here?" The gossip was flying. Aren't you, like, totally not allowed to use your powers for personal beef on school grounds? Especially with teachers watching, everyone started making bets on who would win. The tea was that Hong Kang-shing's dad was some bigwig, and his uncle was literally the school director. So, yeah, he had major backup. Bayi, on the other hand, came from a poor family and knew nobody. If Bayi actually threw down, he was pretty much guaranteed to get expelled. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. And everyone was wondering what the teacher would do. Right on cue, Teacher Huang jumped between them, trying to play peacemaker. Hey, kids, he said. You all just got your powers today, down the road. You two could end up on the same team. Let's not do anything crazy. Okay, just drop it before this gets out of hand. But Hong's anger just cranked up to 11. He scoffed at the very idea of stopping. He felt like Baya's little stunt couldn't just be ignored. In his mind, it wouldn't matter if Baya got on his knees and begged for forgiveness. He was dead set on showing everyone the massive, unbridgeable gap between a chosen one like him and a total nobody. Even Teacher Huang had to admit, there was a huge difference between them that created a pretty insane gap in their power levels, chalking it all up to the cosmic lottery of attribute bonuses from their awakened qualities. Then, Bayu's status popped up, basically showing off his level and, well, his abilities. He was a fresh level 1, an E-rank core warrior. Bless his heart. His stats, with a generous 100% bonus, showed his strength at a mighty 53, a speed of 41, stamina at 61, a sprinkle of luck at 26, a whisper of elemental power at 8, and mental power clocking in at 11. His big moves, block and haste, groundbreaking. Meanwhile, Teacher Huang was having a little chat with himself, noting that a dust mode quality like Bayu's only granted a 100% bonus, which, in the grand scheme of things, meant basically no real enhancement. Compare that to the Firefly kids who get a 150% bonus, or the Abius peak quality, the tippy top tier, which handed out a whopping 200% increase. And right on cue, Hong Kang's stats materialized, practically screaming about how much better he was. He was also a level 1, an E-rank Starfall assassin, but his stats were juiced up with that 200% Abius peak bonus. His strength of 62 was doubled. His speed of 75 was doubled. His stamina of 22. His luck of 21. And his elemental power of 10. And mental power of 10 were all, you guessed it, doubled. His skills, the charming duo of backstab and brutality. Teacher Huang sighed internally, concluding that the second someone awakened with an Abius peak class, their stats just instantly ballooned to double those of some poor dust mode schmuck. This little power discrepancy created a chasm that was basically impossible to cross. We're talking strength, social status, the whole shebang. Bayi was at a total disadvantage, like bringing a water pistol to a volcano fight. Meanwhile, the nerdy kid, who'd just been shaken down for his lunch money by Hong, was watching this whole disaster unfold with great interest. He mused on the absolute pointlessness of poking a bear 10 times your size. Honestly, guys like Bayi just ticked him off. Still, in a dog-eat-dog world like this, survival 101 was just staying off the radar of these walking calamities. And when you couldn't ghost them anymore, you just had to eat some humble pie and live to tell the tale. Picking a fight, he figured, was the dumbest move on the board. A one-way ticket to an even bigger serving of embarrassment. As the drama thickened, Hong whipped out his weapon, lunging forward with all the grace and subtlety of a runaway freight train, ready to unleash some brutal technique on Bayi. Teacher Huang yelled for Bayi to be careful, her heart skipping a beat, wondering if he'd actually try to block again, especially since that block skill drinks stamina like it's happy hour. Hong's insane power and speed were making things look grim. In his own mind, Hong had already won. He was absolutely certain Bayi couldn't pull off another block. He geared up for the final blow. But then Bayi just smirked, thinking, why dodge when you can dazzle? The second Hong went in for the kill. Bayi activated, flash step, vanishing into thin air and popping up right behind him like a magic trick, which led to the awkward moment of Hong's own knife plunging into his gut. His brain was just a mess of static, trying to figure out when his target had decided to play teleport. As blood dramatically sprayed from his mouth, he crumpled to the ground, calling himself a piece of garbage. A bit harsh. But hey, he did just stab himself. Bayi just stood there, flashing a killer smile as whispers erupted from the crowd. The other students were all looking at each other, trying to process what just happened. To most of them, it seriously looked like Hong just tripped and fell on his own knife, leaving them to wonder if he'd slipped on a banana peel or something. Our nerdy friend just scoffed at the ridiculousness of it all, mocking anyone who actually thought Hong accidentally fell. Even teacher Huang had to admit he totally missed it. But the class monitor, Yin, was watching everything with those sharp eyes of hers, and she realized Bayi had pulled out that warrior-exclusive haste skill again. Only this time, it was the upgraded version Flash Step, a fancy little move that doubles your instant speed, lets you dodge in the blink of an eye, and even lets you phase right through whatever's in your way. She was trying to figure out what kind of magic Bayi had just pulled to take Hong down so spectacularly. With just a single move, Bayi had completely wiped the floor with his opponent. It dawned on her that Bayi hadn't just mastered basic warrior skills. He could actually use them like a seasoned pro in a real fight. In that one split second, he had calculated everything with terrifying precision, showing off a level of talent that was just plain unfair. The students were still buzzing, trying to piece together what just happened to Hong. They all agreed Bayi had barely even moved, while Hong's epic fail was going to be the talk of the school. Suddenly, a status window popped up, showing Bayi's progress. Experience up. He just earned 50 class experience points. His level 1 experience bar now showed 50 out of 1,000. His elemental game got a boost too, awarding him 50 Starfall elemental points for giving an E-rank elemental opponent a major beatdown. The list of elements: electric, flower, cloud, core, and starfall now showed 50 out of 10,000 points. I.e. mused that using his class in a fight racked up class experience, and trouncing elemental foes gave him elemental points. Simple enough. Still, he thought the payout was pretty pathetic. Realizing he needed to start clearing out monster dens as soon as possible, before he could make his next move, Hong scrambled to his feet, knife in hand, swearing he was going to kill Bayi. Just as he was about to lunge from behind, Hong Lang, the junior high director of Awakening Academy and, surprise, Hong's uncle, appeared and put a stop to the drama. He started laying into his nephew, declaring what a total embarrassment he was. Hong tried to whine to his uncle, but Bayi just stood there silently, recognizing the man instantly. Oh yeah, he knew who this guy was. Director Liang shooed the crowd away, yelling, "All right, show's over, you're all exhausted from today's awakening. So scram." Students started whispering, "Oh crap. It's the Dean of Discipline," and took off like he'd told them there was a pop quiz. Liang shouted after them to go home, get some rest, and tell their families all about the cool new classes they'd awakened. Bayi quietly chewed on the word home. Liang then turned his glare on Bayi, starting a lecture about the school's very strict rules. But Bayi was a million miles away, completely zoned out. It hit him like a lightning bolt. He had reincarnated 20 years into the past. That meant everyone was still alive. And on Awakening Day, May 22nd, 2001-105, something incredibly important had happened. He cursed himself. How could he have almost forgotten the most critical thing without a word? He just turned and sprinted off. Director Liang's face went from angry to furious, and he warned Teacher Huang to get his student on a leash, adding that for now, he would let this little incident slide. Teacher Huang bowed deeply, apologizing profusely. Later, Huang stomped into his Uncle Liang's office, still steaming, insisting that if it hadn't been for some crazy fluke, he never would have lost. Liang ripped into him, explaining that B's skill was on a completely different level than anything Hong could possibly grasp. He broke it down, describing how B used an advanced flash step the instant Hong moved in. But more importantly, how Bayi had found and nailed the single weakest point on Hong's body just before impact, leaving him totally defenseless. Liang explained that Bayi had pulled off that entire combo using only basic warrior skills, but with a mastery so flawless that even a veteran with 15 years of battlefield experience like himself might not pull it off so perfectly. To Ling, Hong's defeat was like watching a professional gamer absolutely destroy a total noob using only the basic attack button. He knew his nephew Bayi was anything but ordinary. And as he tore through the streets, a single mission consumed his thoughts. Forget revenge. There was one thing he absolutely had to do now that he'd hit the reset button on life. Even if it cost him everything, he was determined to stop what was about to unfold. He finally skidded to a halt in front of an apartment building. His game face was on. As the scene changed, Bayi's status window flickered back into view, showcasing his haste and flash step skills right next to the detailed status of Hong Kong. The clock was ticking, May 22nd, 21:05. At 6:07 p.m., Bayi walked into a scene straight out of a sitcom from hell. His father was glued to the TV, laughing his head off. While his mother was stuck washing the dishes, his dad finally noticed him and called out, "Hey, you're back, a little earlier than usual from school." Huh. But Bayi's eyes were locked on his mother. A wave of pure relief washed over him, just seeing her alive and well in this timeline. His mom, ever the saint, had prepared his absolute favorite, hot and sour noodles. Bayi, however, had to change the script. "I'm actually craving pickled fish tonight." "Oh, honey, I already made the noodles," she said gently. "I can make fish tomorrow." But Bayi pushed. "No, it has to be tonight. I'll go get it right now." She finally gave in. "All right, I'll go buy the fish." Bayi immediately volunteered. "I'm coming with you." That's when his father decided to chime in. "She can go by herself," he grumbled, his mood souring. "And you, is that any way to greet your old man? Have you forgotten what day it is? It's the day of the awakening." He demanded to hear the good news, waving 2 bottles of booze around like they were trophies. "I even got off work early to celebrate with my boy." Bayi took a breath and admitted, "Yeah, about that. I missed the awakening. The whole process was dragging on, and the timing just wasn't right," he explained. His father's good cheer vanished in an instant. "Missed it? Then what are you doing home so early?" he bellowed. Big Lay's kid already hit Firefly tier. He sneered. "Are we going to have 2 good-for-nothings in this family? Is that what you want? You'd better have at least awakened as a deep mountier. Just like I did back in the day, with nothing to my name. Do you have any idea how hard I work for you? The things I've given up?" he ranted, getting in Bayi's face. "So, what's your class? Spit it out." Bayi quietly replied, "I haven't awakened yet." Enraged, his father brought a bottle down hard on his head. "So you're a dust tier," he screamed, assuming the worst. All that time, pretending to hit the books, just to end up as a worthless piece of trash. "You're making me lose face," he roared, kicking Bayi to the ground. Bayi thought to himself, "Right. This man isn't just my father. He's an awakener with the emotional control of a toddler." It's funny how time dulled the memory of how bad it was. But it was all flooding back now. What happened on this exact day in his past life? On May 22nd, 2105, after his father found out he was a dust tier, the man felt so humiliated, he beat him senseless right here at home. And, to protect him, his mother had stepped in, just like she always did. Back then, Bayi had been too weak, too terrified to do a single thing. His father's rampage had lasted for an entire hour. During that time, his mother took the brunt of it. She ended up with a broken leg, and the blows to her head left her permanently confused. Bayi reflected that, even now, as an E-tier nuclear warrior, a class he chose for its very unique perks, he still needed more time before he could make a move. His father's character panel flashed in his mind's eye again. It confirmed he was a C-tier deep mount-tier awakener. A man with plenty of real-world combat experience. A whole different beast from that punk Hong Kong at school. Bayi knew. Deep down, he was losing this ridiculous argument. His roommate, acting like a dramatic dad, grabbed a fistful of his hair and ruffled it aggressively, dramatically wailing about the day he ever let Bayi move in. Bayi sighed. His roommate had clearly been stewing all day, just waiting to ambush him, and wouldn't be satisfied until he got a dramatic apology. He knew he had to get his girlfriend out of the crossfire before she died of secondhand embarrassment. It was his sworn duty to protect her from this level of cringe. His roommate's knuckles gave his head another playful noogie. And right at that critical moment, his girlfriend walked in. Her grocery bag hit the floor with a thud as she stared at the sheer absurdity. Bayi was just wondering how she got back from the store so fast. When he realized she must have rushed back with his favorite fish tacos, not wanting him to miss out. His roommate, of course, spotted her immediately, scoffed, and gestured wildly for her to behold the disaster of a boyfriend she'd chosen. Cut to Bayi, sulking in the dimly lit man cave. Bayi sat in pouty silence, the air thick with the scent of pizza-flavored vape clouds. As another friend watched him with amusement, the friend sized Bayi up, remarking that he was the first person he'd ever seen escalate a green-class rookie mistake into something legendary. Usually, you need to pull a blue-class blunder to get this level of reaction, he mused. But you, my friend, have reached the big leagues way ahead of schedule. You've blown past all expectations. To go straight from a green-class slip-up to the mythical platinum gold tier of trouble. That's like a 1 in a million screw-up. Seriously. How on earth did you end up in the penalty box? Because this level of banishment was reserved for the most heinous crimes. Bayi just stared ahead, his voice flat. He deserved that beatdown. He was mean to my girl. And just like that, the memory of that fateful day came flooding back. The scene rewinds to May 22nd, 2105. When his roommate's dramatic fury echoed through the apartment. Bayi had been theatrically shoved onto the couch, his hair getting playfully messed up before he was dramatically flopped onto the beanbag chair. A bit of ketchup dribbled from his mouth from the burger he was eating. Oh, the agony. In that moment, he realized how a truly skilled drama queen, even without props, possessed a flair for the dramatic, far beyond that of a normal person. No ordinary guy could withstand such a tickle attack. His girlfriend immediately rushed to his side, her face a mask of mock concern as she stood between them, shielding him from further silliness. Bayu's roommate then dramatically slid the chain lock on the door, his expression comically grim as he muttered about how this has all gone terribly wrong. He then turned to Bayu's girlfriend, calling her Ruan, and reminisced about the day he found out she was dating his best friend. On that day, he had been genuinely thrilled, thinking this was his chance to finally have a solid player 2 for his co-op games and restore their squad's leaderboard ranking. The other 2 guys in our friend group couldn't even get past the tutorial. Ling Shen declared. But Ling Shen, found us a new recruit. He was so sure their gaming clan would finally achieve legendary status. But now, his pride had curdled into disappointment as he glared at Bayi. Bayi had turned out to be just a green-class noob, the most hopeless kind of gamer, seemingly incapable of leveling up. To Ling Shen, Bayi was just a button-mashing liability, and he playfully blamed Ruan for it, claiming it was her fault for having terrible taste in men. Bayu's roommate then grabbed a fluffy throw pillow, hoisting it high as he advanced menacingly toward Bayu's girlfriend. Laughter filled her eyes as she braced for impact, trembling with amusement at his ridiculous display. But before the pillow could connect, Bayi moved in a blur, using his patented couch scoot technique to appear between them. With his mighty TV remote, he parried the incoming fluffy assault, his shove sending his dad stumbling across the room like a misplaced ottoman. Bayi stood defiantly, commanding, "You shall not pass." My personal space bubble. His mother's expression of sheer panic deepened as the family drama hit a new peak. Meanwhile, a sly smirk crawled across his father's face as he found his footing. Himada noted his son's newfound nerve, remarking how Bayi had finally sprouted a backbone, his tone a bizarre mix of annoyance and pride. With a grin that screamed trouble, he lunged forward again, his attack about as graceful as a runaway shopping cart. Bayi braced himself, realizing he had no choice but to engage in this ridiculousness. Using a parry technique he definitely learned from an anime, he tried to block the blow, but his makeshift sword, a curtain rod, snapped dramatically. A jolt of pain shot through his side, and he was pretty sure his ribs were composing a protest song. The pressure was so intense he worried they might just pop out for a breather. His father's voice dripped with melodrama, accusing Bayi of disrespecting his elder. A grumpy energy crackled around him as he prepared to unleash his ultimate move, the heavy black thunder glare, taunting Bayi for being in such a rush. But Bayi stood his ground, absolutely refusing to dodge. He was determined to see this through. His father acknowledged his stubbornness with a slow clap, though his disdain was perfectly clear, declaring that such a low-level player deserved a lesson in respect. In his head, Bayi vowed that this time, the family game night would not end in tears. No, this tragedy would not be a repeat. His dad then hoisted a dining chair like a professional wrestler, striking a pose as he sneered, belittling Bayi's power-up and mocking his defiance, demanding, "Who do you think you are? Talking back to your own father." But before another scene could unfold, a sudden, sharp knock echoed from the front door. A voice called out, "Open up in there." Bayi's father grumbled in pure irritation. "Who could possibly be interrupting?" he muttered. "The fun is just getting started." Bayi remained silent, a tiny, knowing smile on his lips. His inner monologue was a simple, right on schedule. Grumbling, his father stomped over and yanked the door open. His annoyed expression instantly vanished, replaced by shock, as he found two official-looking figures waiting. One was the deputy captain of the inspection team, a fiery A-rank divine enforcer named Lai. Beside him stood Chen Jinwu, a team inspector and a much cooler C-rank divine mediator. Bayi's father suddenly looked very nervous, asking what brought them to his humble abode. Lai simply held up a photograph. "We've had a report," he said calmly, "that the notorious fugitive known as Snow was seen entering this building. They were checking every apartment, one by one, to make sure no one was harboring any unauthorized guests. Playing it cool." Beiji's dad chuckled. "Oh, that guy, from TV. Right." He swore he'd call them personally if anyone matching that description just happened to pop by for tea. Lai's attention then shifted to a slightly disheveled Bayi. With a painfully fake smile, Bayi's father draped an arm over the deputy captain's shoulder and launched into a ridiculously fabricated story. He claimed his son was just having a clumsy day. "You know, he tripped on his way back from buying groceries. It's absolutely nothing to worry about." Bayi, bruised but bold, decided to chime in. He spoke the simple truth. "He hit me." The words hung in the air, instantly shattering the tense, awkward silence. Pure, unadulterated panic flashed in his father's eyes as his story fell apart. 18 minutes earlier, Bayi recalled making a call to the deputy's department, reporting that someone who looked exactly like the online description of Snow had just strolled into the Afzu mansion. He'd made the call from a payphone at a little shop across the street, right before heading upstairs for the main event. A clever little move to ensure the inspection team would be paying his floor a visit. He figured that once security heard the name Snow, they'd mobilize the entire cavalry. He hadn't expected them to be quite so efficient. But hey, there was still plenty of time to let this play out. In that very moment, Lion spun around to face Bayu's father with the dramatic flair of a soap opera star. He demanded to know if the old man's story was legit and if he'd really laid a hand on his son. Bayu's father just waved it off. It was just a joke. A little father-son roughhousing, he insisted, clutching his chest dramatically. I'd never hurt my own boy. My heart would simply ache far too much. Bayi, however, decided it was time for a little show and tell, mentally pointing out each of his souvenirs. His arm, he recalled, had an unfortunate encounter with a flying stool. His head had a disagreement with a wine bottle. One little ouchie was from an overly enthusiastic fist bump, and another from a misplaced kick. He noted that a doctor could probably give a 5-star review on the severity of his injuries right away. According to the Divine Canon's Awaken Management Regulations, you see, Chapter 8, Article 4, any awakened individual who can't control their temper tantrums and ends up hurting people is considered a potential party pooper and must be detained immediately. Such folks get a 15-day, all expenses paid vacation to the awakened prison. Liang and Chen's jaws practically hit the floor, while Bayu's father started screaming at his son. Have you lost your mind, Liang? Recovering his composure, formally introduced himself as part of the inspector team and declared Ba Ling, Bayu's father, under lawful arrest. He then advised him of his right to remain silent, which Ba Ling promptly ignored as he was seized. He let loose a string of colorful curses as they cuffed him. Chen warned him to chill out, adding that any resistance would earn him an immediate timeout via control measures. As they dragged him away, Ba Ling shouted back at Bayi, cursing his name and vowing to get him back for this. The second they were gone, Bayi called out for his mother. She rushed over and pulled him into a bear hug. He patted her back, assuring her that the drama was over and she didn't need to worry. In his head, he thought, well, that went according to plan. He had protected his mom, and now he had a glorious 15 days to prepare. He promised her this sort of family drama was officially a one-time special event. Inside, Bayi was already plotting his glow-up. He was going to get so much stronger in that time, he wasn't about to take a hit from a bar stool for nothing. Plus, in all the commotion, he'd managed to snag the key to his father's safe with some slick sleight of hand. This was the very same key that Ba Ling had once sold out his own teammates for without a second thought. With the prize in his hand, Bayi slid open his father's drawer. He mused on the history of the little trinket he was about to grab. This thing had single-handedly boosted his dad from a bottom-of-the-barrel E-class to a respectable class. It had been locked away in the most ridiculously secure safe in his room. The man had kept it a secret even from his own family. In Bayu's last life, he'd only found out it existed after his dad was already gone. Now, armed with this little game-changer, he was planning to go solo against the demon's den. Grabbing the weapon, Bayi steeled himself. He knew that, at the moment, demon dens were the only places offering career upgrades. Unfortunately, all those dens were now under the thumb of the god system, and only the cool kids in guild groups were on the guest list. The only ones open to a solo act like him were the one managed by the school and a secret demon den he'd stumbled upon in his previous life. Determined to move at lightning speed, Bayi swore he was going to blow past everyone in the rankings. A system notification popped up, describing the demon den as a charming place where monsters hang out. Inside, professionals could fight these critters. It was a great way to gain experience, boost their combat power, and level up. Bayi smirked, ready to start his climb to the top. On May 22nd, 2:15. At 10:22 p.m. Inside the inspector detention room, Chen and Liang were gossiping about the night's wild events. The entire guard squad was in an absolute tizzy. They even dragged the vice captain out of bed. And for what? Absolutely nothing. They were this close to calling it a prank call. But you can never let your guard down when matters involve those troublemaking rebels. Seriously. If that heartthrob Snow actually showed up in their county on the anniversary, it would be a complete and utter disaster. They all knew about the ridiculous bounty on Snow and Nimid, and the captain's way too early return, but wisely decided that was gossip for another time. Not too far off, Bayu's dad was putting on a world-class performance, dramatically pleading with the vice captain for just a little mercy. He was swearing up and down it was his first offense, and promising on a stack of holy books it would never, ever happen again. He even brought up the vice captain's very pregnant wife, trying to offer a deluxe spa package from his buddy's postnatal care center over in Trees County. Liang just scoffed, asking him how a once-respected guild member could stoop to trying to bribe the inspection team with baby coupons. He gave him a look that screamed bad life choices. Then as he left, Chen casually mentioned to Bayu's father that if this little bribery attempt got out, the consequences would be a whole lot worse than just a timeout in the slammer. He advised him to get some rest, since he was being shipped off to the awakened prison the next day and would definitely need to cool his head there. Seething, Bayu's father muttered his son's name like a curse. Meanwhile, Bayi strolled into the demon den, determined to make the most of his time. His dad was getting out in 15 days. And before that, Bayi needed a serious power-up. Fast. The demon den was his only real choice. These dens were basically pocket dimensions right next to our world, and you could only get in through gates that popped up out of nowhere. Most of the time, once a demon lair is discovered, some big shot guild slaps their logo on it and guards it. Since they're packed with monsters and shiny minerals, this makes them the perfect spot for leveling up and buffing your stats. But they are, of course, still incredibly dangerous. You're supposed to get an official inspection before going in, and usually, you need a whole crew just to survive. But thanks to a past life, Bayi remembered this specific demon lair making the 6 o'clock news years from now. It had been completely ignored for ages, staying off the radar until the whole demon invasion thing kicked off. He figured there was a 90% chance this dungeon was F-rank. A place like that would need a bare minimum of 3 E-rank awakened individuals to clear it out. Meanwhile, E-rank dungeons required a full party of 5, made up of 3 E-rank and 2 D-rank awakened. This was the easiest hidden dungeon he could possibly get into right now. Right in front of him, the entrance to a completely undiscovered dungeon was just waiting. Bayi had to remind himself that clearing a demon lair was supposed to be a team effort, with different classes and skills to up the odds. But since he was flying solo, he just committed to becoming a one-man army at lightning speed. The system gave him a little pop-up about the danger level of entering, but he swiped it away without a second thought. Inside, the place was a winter wonderland from hell. Covered from top to bottom in ice and snow, it was a giant, frosty billboard that screamed, "Ice element monsters live here." Tiptoeing carefully, Bayi spotted an enormous beast just sleeping it off. It was surrounded by a grim collection of human bones. Looks like someone else had a very bad day. The creature was a hibernating E-rank icefield bear, before he could even think of a plan. A bloodthirsty forest wolf, an E-rank cloud-type beast, lunged right at him. There had only been a 10% chance of an ambush, which pretty much confirmed that this was, in fact, an E-rank Demon King. It suddenly dawned on Bayi that the reason this place had been a secret for so long was probably because all the monsters were taking a long winter's nap. Just my luck. Even a single fluffy wolf was a higher level than me. A totally dramatic battle began. And there I was, Bayi, swinging my dad's A-rank hand-me-down, somehow managing to convince the creature to take a nap. This coup blade, my one true love, is ridiculously sharp. Like it could slice through my awkward dating history. You can't just buy a beauty like this at the store. It's the only thing bridging the gap between me and total humiliation. Still, this furball's defense was seriously impressive. Even when I aimed for all the ticklish spots, it took a solid 3 to 4 pokes to get one to lie down. Honestly, I was already missing the simple days when I was a total nobody. The system, my personal hype man, flashed my progress. As an E-level professional, leveling up meant I had to bonk about 20 of these wolves. My experience bar crawled upwards, granting me a cool 52 professional experience points. Plus, since I defeated a cloudy-type opponent, I snagged 50 cloud element points. I seed, realizing that going from E for embarrassing to D for decent was going to take 10 whole levels. A moment later, the charming scent of uh-oh filled the air, attracting what looked like the entire extended family of forest wolves. More of the cloudy critters just popped out of the snow, circling me like I was the last slice of pizza. Bayi tried to look cool and braced himself. It dawned on me they were all coming at once for a group hug of death. So, I launched into a chaotic dance with the very hungry forest wolves. I was landing one perfect little boop after another right on their snoots. Every time a wolf lunged, I'd just sidestep with the grace of a startled cat, then whip around to send them packing. One by one. The pack dwindled until only one remained. I delivered the final, dramatic tap to the last wolf, and bing times, the system confirmed the knockout, tossing me another 52 experience points. How generous. But the party wasn't over. The big boss was still standing. I gave the Wolf King a decisive "how do you do?" And that was that. The system chimed in to tell me how awesome I was. It awarded me 56 experience points and a sparkly snow wolf diamond. Ooh. Shiny. Apparently. It's some super durable stuff for making weapons and worth about 10,000 yuan. With the battle finally over, I figured it was time for my big promotion. The system window popped up, showing my progress at 1,094 out of 1,000 experience points at level 1. I was upgraded to level 2, and still E rank. But hey, I got 12 stat points to play with. Suddenly, the exhaustion hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd only taken out 20 wolves, but my E rank body was crying out for a nap. I realized I desperately needed one of those magic backpacks, because leaving all these shiny souvenirs behind would be a true crime against fashion. The problem is, all the cool monster dens are basically exclusive clubs run by guilds, making it impossible for a charming freelancer to get ahead. If you want to get into the VIP section of demon dens, joining the Guild of Gods is basically the only way. The Awakener School is pretty much just a giant audition for their teams. For most of us, students, the ultimate dream is to graduate and get picked by the Cool Kids Guild. Getting kicked off a team, on the other hand, means your social and professional life is basically over. Most people never get past C rank. It's the ultimate ghosting. I had to admit, going it alone was painfully slow. And the freezing cold was really cramping my style. It was draining my stamina with every dramatic shiver. Just as I was pondering my next move, more of my adoring, bloodthirsty fans appeared behind me. I made a strategic retreat through the trees, doing a little impromptu landscaping, but they managed to surround me again. They're persistent. I'll give them that. And this time, the wolves brought their slithery friends. A bunch of cloud pythons emerged, closing in. Just as things got super awkward, a massive explosion shattered the tension. All the earlier drama had apparently put every single guy on alert. And now an even bigger problem showed up. The floorboards practically shook as a massive tundra bear of a man stomped into view, his colossal frame making every other dude in the place look like a hobbit. The wannabe wolves and pickup artist pythons were literally tossed aside by his sheer presence as he bulldozed through, just spoiling for a fight with anyone. Seizing this golden opportunity, Bayi engaged the dazed and confused suitors, smoothly shutting them down one by one, while expertly sidestepping the big guy's chaotic meltdown. My internal dating app confirmed each social takedown, rewarding me with experience and loot, including 2 snow wolf fangs, which were probably just some phone numbers, and a little cloud python venom for my trouble. Realizing I had the upper hand, I focused on charming the remaining creatures out of the picture while dodging the drama, making sure I landed the final witty remark. So all that sweet relationship experience was credited to me. I mean, these E-rank beasts were persistent, but they seriously lacked any real game, making them pretty easy to outmaneuver. My hard work paid off when the system announced I'd hit level 4 in flirtation. I was still stuck in the E rank of the friend zone. But hey, I had 12 extra stat points to pour into my charm skill. The Tundra Bear's little rampage was drawing all the negative attention, which honestly saved me a ton of energy. Still, this whole prolonged social dance left me feeling pretty wiped. Even with the big lug's unintentional help, I was getting tired. So I braced myself for the next phase of this disastrous date. The battlefield's general chaos had made the social ground incredibly unstable. So, I drove my sword a perfectly timed, devastatingly charming comment right into the icy atmosphere. I completely shattered the fragile bridge of conversation beneath us. All the remaining wolves and cloud pythons went tumbling into the abyss of social awkwardness. Throughout this whole mess, Bayi had been reading the room. The surface we were on wasn't a solid foundation for a good time, but a treacherous ice bridge of politeness, connecting two canyons of pure disaster. As the wannabes fell from grace, my internal system kept pinging me with kill confirmations. Awarding me 52 experience points for each bloodthirsty wolf I outwitted and granting me materials, including some cloud-scale wolf parts. The tundra bear suddenly lunged toward Bayi, his massive body crashing down with enough force to make the floor tremble. At this point, most of the other romantic pests had already been dealt with. With what little energy I had left, Bayi knew he just needed to get rid of this last guy to level up our budding romance. This was his fastest way to a second date. And yet, as the awkward standoff continued, another thought started to form in his mind. Every dating dungeon has one. The final boss, an E-rank demon den lord, would probably be on the same level as her notoriously tough best friend, the brutal Lion King of Eton. Despite all this chaos, that leader hadn't even made an appearance. Her absence felt super weird. The tundra bear locked his gaze on him, letting out a deep, resonating brew. The whole vibe of the place shifted, and Bayi sensed something was off. At first, he thought someone just turned on the air conditioning. But then the chilling realization hit him. This wasn't an accident at all. Someone had been watching, just waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. She was saving her strength until everyone's social battery was totally drained. And they had ended up in this exact, isolated spot. The ice bridge of a date was actually a carefully constructed trap designed to force them into a corner they couldn't escape. At the very last second, she planned to strike and claim victory for herself. Hidden within this low-key dive bar was a far greater danger than he ever expected. From the vape cloud, the real threat emerged. A level 11 cloud elemental, Mage, appeared, her presence radiating a cold, judgmental power. Alongside her, 2 level 10 cloud demon warriors stepped forward, their movements deliberate and way too intimidating. The mage fixed her gaze on Bayi and curved her lips into a faint, terrifying smile that clearly said, "You can't sit with us." That move totally threw Bayi for a loop. And suddenly the air in that frozen canyon felt charged with something new. And spoiler alert, it wasn't just the cold.